Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Introduction, led by myself, Muchikunda, and Ishri, who will be joining me very soon. We are those Hare Krishnas, and we discuss Krishna consciousness. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to share any comments or questions in the comments section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you have to do something in the setting. It will say that in the description of this video, so just follow that. And if you're on YouTube, you can just go ahead and post comments, no problem. And I love your comments. I'll bring them in if they're especially juicy. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to start reading. But before I do that, I'm going to say the invocation before reading this golden literature called Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm going to sing the invocation and the respect prayer, the prayer of respect, which is Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so even in this material world, we can have a little sense of love. How is this possible? It is due to the love which is found in the Godhead. Whatever we find within our experience, within this conditional life, is situated in the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate source of everything. In our original relationship with the Supreme Lord, there is real love. And that love is reflected pervertedly through material conditions. Our real love is continuous and unending, but because that love is reflected pervertedly in this material world, it lacks continuity and is inebriating. I'll read that again. But because our real love is continuous and unending, but because that love is reflected pervertedly in this material world, it lacks continuity and is inebriating. Let's find out the definition of this word, inebriating. What is inebriating? Hold up. What is inebriating?
According to Uber, the Uber platform features a two-way rating system. Drivers and riders give each other
not Uber rating. Define inebriating. Oh man, probably gonna have to use my fingers. This is hellish. Jokes. Inebriating. Use my typewriter here. Inebriating. Okay, the definition of this word is make someone drunk. Wow. Okay, I thought it was like inhibiting, but it's actually about intoxication. For example, it is a rum-based drink designed more to inebriate the masses than to please the palate. Okay, more definitions. Latin, late Middle English, as an adjective from Latin inebriatus. Inebriatus, past particle of inebriare, intoxicate, based on ebrius, drunk. Okay, so it really does just mean drunk, right? So let's read the sentence again. Check this out. Our real love is continuous and unending, but because that love is reflected pervertedly in this material world, it lacks continuity and is inebriating. So our love, which is meant for Krishna, which is usually originally continuous, unending, without cessation, and yeah, right? It's continuous and unending. But when that love is directed towards matter, right, in the material world, it's perverted and it has the effect of being interrupted, so there's no continuity, and it's also inebriating. How is that? How is love in the material world intoxicating? And it makes one drunk. How would you say that is?
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hello. What's the question? How does love make one intoxicated?
Prabhupada is saying here that our love for Krishna originally, the love of the soul is continuous and real love. And then when we come to this material world, that love gets perverted because we're directing it towards, matter and not Krishna. I love this comment. Yeah, just so good. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Thank you, Hanky Panda. Yes, so the question is, how is it that the love in the material world is intoxicating and inebriating, makes one drunk?
Right. I mean, can we even call it love? I feel like it's lust. And
it is called that. You will hear that later in this book.
Yeah.
Calm, desire.
And I'm like not in the frame. I'm gonna move over.
Hanky Panda hasn't chanted since she was 16 years old. And how old are you now? What were you saying?
Lust. And what does lust do to the mind and the senses?
Lust. What does lust do to the mind and the senses? Yeah, it makes one drunk. It's a fact. I mean, you see all the cartoons, right? Like there's that one you were showing me.
Oh yeah.
What was it? What's that skunk called?
Pepe the Pew.
Yeah, he's just constantly
lusting over.
Yeah.
And they actually
lusty. Let's show him.
Skunk. And actually
lusty skunk.
And they actually portray him as someone who drinks and smokes. And
let's bring him up.
This is a child.
Let's expose this guy. How do you say it?
Child-friendly, Looney Tunes.
Yeah, look at this guy. This dude, he represents like the old pervert. Seriously. He's intoxicated on lust, images, or video. Let's bring up a video. And I'll see if I can share the screen.
The 42-second one.
Inebriated. Yeah, and you're as old as dirt. Okay. Dirt's hella old. We're all as old as dirt.
Eternally.
Dirt's actually not even... well, it's a permutation of... It's earth, and earth is it's part of the Mahatattva, which is in one sense eternal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It only changes. It doesn't get destroyed. So we're also like that. But we don't even get changed. We're eternal. So... Didn't really answer my question, but that's okay. Here, I'm going to share the screen so we can see this guy. Hopefully this works this time. Yeah, not really what I wanted.
So this is the example of how love in the material world makes one...
Okay, they're seeing this. It's great.
Makes one...
Look at this
inebriated.
Guy. Yep. So we're about to see how this is. This is what Prabhupada's talking about. Pepe the Pew, pretty much. Let us know if you can't see this, by the way. Oh, wait, you're seeing that? Surely not. Surely. Are you giving a class? Yeah, kind of.
We're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita from the start and discussing. So class, more like discussion, in which you're contributing.
I can't, the share screen thing ain't going to work, but you guys should just check out Pepe the Pew if you want to get a real illustration of this this line here. I'll read it one more time.
We'll try and fiddle with it.
Yeah, we will for tomorrow. So Prabhupada's saying, if we want real transcendental love, we have to transfer our love to the supreme lovable object the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Your turn.
In material consciousness, we are trying to love that which is not at all lovable. Well, just like mic drop. Isn't that whole sentence? This is what's happening.
The loving, unlovable, objects. And then, wow, how are you going to say that this thing is lovable?
Oh my.
Likable, useful, desirable.
Desirable.
We love things and we use people. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what Prabhupada is saying here. We're loving unlovable things, and then we're using people. He doesn't say that. I'm saying that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Well, and just now to continue, we give our love to dogs and cats, running the risk that at the time of death we may think of them and consequently take birth in a family of cats and dogs. Thus, love that does not have Krishna as its object leads downward. It is not that Krishna or God is something obscure or something that only a few chosen people can attain. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs us that in every country and in every scripture, there's some hint of love of God. Unfortunately, no one knows what love of Godhead actually is. The Vedic scriptures, however, are different in that they direct the individual in the proper way to love God. I'm going to read that again. The Vedic scriptures, however, are different in that they can direct the individual in the proper way. In the proper way to love God. Other scriptures do not give information on how one can love God, nor do they actually define or describe what or who the Godhead actually is. Wow. I can agree with that. Coming across Prabhupada's books has given me the most vivid description of who and what God is. Couldn't find that anywhere.
Right.
Although they officially promote love of Godhead, they have no idea how to execute it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a practical demonstration of how to love God in a conjugal relationship. Taking the part of Radharani, Chaitanya tries to love Krishna as Radharani loved him. Krishna was amazed by Radharani's love. How does Radharani give me such pleasure? He would ask. In order to study Radharani, Krishna lived in her role and tried to understand himself. This is the secret of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation. Chaitanya is Krishna, but he has taken the mode or role of Radharani to show us how to love Krishna. Thus, he is addressed. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, who is absorbed in Radharani's thoughts. So this whole paragraph, oh my goodness.
I reckon it'd be awesome to have Hanky Panda come on. She was a devotee back when she was a teenager, chanting and reading. She says, it was very high reading for me as a young girl. I feel like I could digest it better now as an aging lady. Love to have you on and hear your experiences if you so desire. Where are we up to?
Now we are This brings
up the question of who Radharani is and what Radha Krishna is. Actually, Krishna, Radha Krishna, is the exchange of love. Actually, Radha Krishna is the exchange of love. This is not ordinary love. Krishna has immense potencies, of which 3 are principal: internal, external, and marginal. In the internal potency, there are 3 divisions: Samvit, Hladini, and Sandhini. The Hladini potency is the pleasure potency. And by the way, for those watching, this is high reading.
Yeah.
And it's digestible according to our adhikar. And our adhikar, what that really means is it's our lifestyle. Like this is state-specific knowledge. Knowledge is state-specific. You can understand certain things and not other certain things according to your think of your consciousness like soil. Some soil is very fertile for some seeds, right? And other soil is just not fertile. So the way to make our consciousness fertile and more ready to accept and understand, and as you say, hanky panda, that's a great name, by the way, digestible, is not actually necessarily with age. Age may not make a difference. What really makes the difference is a sincerity to understand, a desire, a deep longing to connect with Krishna. Basically, you just have to want it. It's actually super simple. Like Krishna Prem, love of God, it is actually very simple for the simple. You just have to want it. That's the only price. You literally just have to want it.
Desire.
Actually, that's the case with everything. But we
desire, right?
Yeah, it all starts with desire. And here's the thing. It doesn't stop there though, right? Like if you really want something, what do you do next? Thinking, feeling, willing. So you think about it and then you feel. So we have to get to that point at least of really feeling,
and
like
getting
emotional.
Attached.
Yeah, right? Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 262, Jyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangas Teshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama. We have to develop that sangha, that attachment. And then what happens when we have a desire is naturally our intelligence goes to work on producing ideas for actions that we could take to fulfill that desire, right? Like, hey, we wanted to go to Kirtan. So it started with, hey, you want to go to Kirtan? There was a thought, and then there was a feeling. It's like, yeah, actually, you know what? Haven't been in 2 weeks. And then it was like, okay, well, it starts at this time. And then, my wife was putting her beanie on and her jacket and she's getting ready. So when there's a desire, you take certain actions consistent with fulfilling that desire, consistent with someone who would have that thing or do that thing. Right? So that's the recipe for digesting this knowledge. Is first want it and then start doing the things, pick up the book, buy the book, log on to YouTube and, get amongst the conversation,
Nice.
Stuff like that. So I'll read on. I say that because this is high reading for me.
Yeah.
This is technical stuff. Hladini, Sandhini. So the Hladini potency is the pleasure potency. All living entities have this pleasure-seeking potency. For all beings are trying to have pleasure. This is the very nature of the living entity. At present, we are trying to enjoy our pleasure potency by means of the body in this material condition. The bodily contact we are attempting to derive pleasure from by bodily contact, we are attempting to derive pleasure from material sense objects. We should not think, however, that Krishna, who is always spiritual, tries to seek pleasure on this material plane like us. Krishna describes the material universe as a non-permanent place of miseries. Why then would he seek pleasure in the material form? He is the supersoul, the supreme spirit, and his pleasure is beyond the material conception. That's a lot to digest.
Every paragraph is like a lot to digest.
Hanky Panda says, I initially followed for Leah on this channel. Wait, share this one. I initially followed Leah on this channel and her experiences, including reasons for leaving, but my core values never really changed. I was shaped by what I learned. I gave my son a Sanskrit name for Krishna. Guess I'm attached in a way, even if mundanely.
Nice.
Epic. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. We'll read on.
Material conception? Yes. In order to learn how Krishna's pleasure can be obtained, we must read the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in which Krishna's pleasure potency is displayed in his pastimes with Radharani and the damsels of Vraj. Unfortunately, unintelligent people turn at once to sports. Unfortunately, unintelligent people turn at once to the sports of Krishna in the Dashama Skanda, the 10th canto. Krishna embracing Radharani or his dancing with the cowherd girls in the rasa dance are generally not understood by ordinary men because they consider these pastimes in the light of mundane lust. They incorrectly think that Krishna is like themselves and that he embraces the gopis just as an ordinary man embraces a young girl. Some people thus become interested in Krishna because they think that his religion allows indulgence in sex. This is not Krishna bhakti, love of Krishna, but prakrita sahajya, materialistic lust. So repeat, that is not Krishna bhakti.
Right. We spoke about that at length yesterday, the sahajiyas, those who take things cheaply, and go straight to the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If anyone's interested in that, they can go to the previous reading.
I'll continue. In order to avoid such errors, we should understand what Radha Krishna actually is. Radha and Krishna display their pastimes through Krishna's internal energy. The pleasure potency of Krishna's internal energy is a most difficult subject matter. And unless one understands what Krishna is, he cannot understand it. Krishna does not take any pleasure in this material world, but he has a pleasure potency. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, the pleasure potency is within us also. Because we are, but we are trying to exhibit that pleasure potency in matter. Krishna, however, does not make such a vain attempt. The object of Krishna's pleasure potency is Radharani. And he exhibits his pleasure potency or his energy as the Radharani and then engages in loving affairs with her. In other words, Krishna does not take pleasure in this external energy, but exhibits his internal energy, his pleasure potency as Radharani. Thus, Krishna manifests himself as Radharani in order to exhibit his internal pleasure potency. Of the many expansions, and incarnations of the Lord, this pleasure potency is the foremost and chief.
Any points?
How are you feeling? Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Oh, I'll read one more paragraph and then we can share some thoughts. Again, to our viewers, feel free to share in the comments any thoughts, reflections, questions, realizations. It is not that Radharani is separate from Krishna. Radharani is also Krishna. For there is no difference between the energy and the energetic. Without energy, there is no meaning to the energetic. And without the energetic, there's no energy. So without energy, that's Radha, there's no meaning to the energetic, that's Krishna.
Right.
So Krishna necessarily has a consort. And the consort naturally wouldn't exist without Krishna. So in that way, they are one. They are non-different, not separate.
Not separate, yeah.
And they're one and they're different too. The energy and the energetic are two distinct things. That's why one sounds, they're 100% different things, and yet they're intertwined. Similarly, without Radha, there is no meaning to Krishna. And without Krishna, there is no meaning to Radha. Because of this, the Vaishnava philosophy, first of all, pays obeisances to and worships the internal pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Lord and his potency are always referred to as Radha Krishna. Similarly, those who worship the name of Narayan, first of all, utter the name of Lakshmi as Lakshmi Narayan. Similarly, those who worship Lord Ram, first of all, utter the name of Sita. In any case, Sita Ram, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, the potency always comes first. Hence, Ishvara, Keshavi, and Mokshagandha. Prabhupada says that woman is the energy of man. You see, this comes from
Radha Krishna.
Radha Krishna. Radharani is the energy.
She's the energetic.
No, she's actually the energy.
Okay.
So maybe that, in that sense, in that case, it doesn't really work.
Right.
Moving on. Radha and Krishna are one. And when Krishna desires to enjoy pleasure, he manifests himself as Radharani. So there's obviously a difference there. There's a oneness and a difference. Maybe today's a good time to bring in this distinction. I was just chatting with a friend at the Kirtan event we were at, and he was saying, back in the 90s, my teacher taught me Dvaita philosophy. So for those who aren't familiar with the different schools of philosophical thought in regards to God, there's basically three schools of thought, right? There's the school that says we're all one. Maybe in the material world, no, they say in the material world, we are different. We're all individual. But after death, we merge back into the oneness. Some do say, that is the prerequisite for merging, though, having that experience of liberate, what they call mukti, liberation, is predicated on becoming self-realized, right? So the goal for them as yogis or Brahmavadis is to realize that they are ultimately one with God. Aham Brahmasmi is where that comes from. And that they're not wrong. It's important to note that these are a respect-worthy group of transcendentalists. They go after this mukti. That doesn't mean that the Vaishnavas want mukti, but that is a school of thought and a school of transcendentalists. Prabhupada gives them credence in the Bhagavad Gita purports. So that's one school. Then there's the other school called Dvaitavadis, and they say their Vad is that we are different. We are all individual eternally, completely separate from God. There's God and there's a living entity. So whereas the Brahmavadis say that we're all one, there's no difference ultimately. Maybe only temporarily in the material world we're different, but when we're liberated, we go back to being one, homogeneous soup with God, the God soup. They say God is a soup, God soup, and we're a part of that. Lumpers and splitters, that's so well said. So there's the lumping school and the splitting school, right? And then there's another school. And who taught that school? None other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are reading the textbook for his school. What is his school? What is the teaching? How is it different? It is called Achintya Beta Abheda Tattva. Achintya means inconceivable. So we are inconceivably, as living entities, we are simultaneously one and different. Although it's inconceivable, there is one way to wrap our heads around it, which is that a drop of water is both different and one with the ocean. It has its individual identity as a droplet, and when you drop it into the ocean, it doesn't necessarily lose that individual, like it doesn't, it still remains. Those molecules, those bits of water remain bits of water, right? You could pull them back out if you wanted to. So in that way, similarly, the living entity is simultaneously one with and different from God and the creation, actually, and each other. We're simultaneously one and different from Brahman. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Anything else about that?
I think you covered it thoroughly.
Prabhupada does, he's more succinct than me. He says, Radha and Krishna are one, and when Krishna desires to enjoy pleasure, he manifests himself as Radharani. The spiritual exchange of love between Radha and Krishna is the actual display of the internal pleasure potency of Krishna. So Radha and Krishna are both simultaneously one and different. Okay, do you want to continue reading?
Sure.
Although we speak of
when Krishna desires, just when he did desire, we cannot say. We only speak in this way because in conditional life, we take it that everything has a beginning. However, in the absolute or spiritual life, there is neither beginning nor end. Yet in order to understand that Radha and Krishna are one and that they also become divided, the question when automatically comes to mind. When Krishna desired to enjoy his pleasure potency, he manifested himself in the separate form of Radharani. And when he wanted to understand himself through the agency of Radha, he united with Radharani, and that unification is called Lord Chaitanya.
When?
When? Question, when doesn't exist in the spiritual.
Right. There's no time is
beginning
conspicuous
or
by its
end.
absence.
Right.
Time is a material phenomenon. It takes place in the material world. In order to cause change and degradation and aging and karma, ultimately, it's the delivery man for karma. Krishna in the form of time, he kills. So things need to die in the material world because it's the place of death by definition. And so how that takes place is through the agency of time. That's what time is. It's an agent. And it's actually Krishna.
Material agent.
Yeah. But I love what it says here about when, what does it say? When Krishna manifested himself in the separate form of Radharani, and with Radharani, and when he wanted to understand himself through the agency of Radha, he united with Radharani. And that unification is called Lord Chaitanya. So Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna combined.
Yeah.
And this whole book that we're about to read, we're just in the introduction, we're about to hear what he got up to, what Radha Krishna combined got up to only 500 years ago in Bengal, India. He went on a tour around the whole South India, and he had extremely he performed Leela pastimes with his devotees, and they're beautiful to hear, and they're instructive, and they're nectarian hearing material. So
Guess I'll read one more.
Yeah, one more.
Okay. Why did Krishna assume the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It is explained that Krishna desired to know the glory of Radha's love. Why is she so much in love with me? Krishna asked. What is my special qualification that attracts her so? And what is the actual way in which she loves me? It seems strange that Krishna, as the supreme, should be attracted by anyone's love. We search after the love of a woman or a man because we are imperfect and lack something. The love of a woman, that potency and pleasure is absent in man. It's absent in man. And therefore, a man wants a woman. But this is not the case with Krishna, who is full in himself. Thus, Krishna expressed surprise. Why am I attracted by Radharani? And when Radharani feels my love, what is she actually feeling? In order to taste the essence of that loving affair, Krishna appeared just as the moon appears on the horizon of the sea. Just as the moon was produced by the churning of the sea, by the churning of spiritual love affairs, the moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Indeed, Chaitanya's complexion was golden, just like the moon. Although this is figurative language, it conveys the meaning behind the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The full significance of his appearance will be explained in later chapters. End of paragraph. That's a good place to end.
100%, yeah.
Krishna had a thought. Why am I so attracted by Radharani? And what is she actually feeling?
Yes. And therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement, which has been inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like it's the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, is simultaneously not a sentimental movement. It's not a sentimental movement, but it's also not a dry philosophical armchair non-movement. It's a movement about bhav, emotional love of God. It's literally about spreading love of God. That's what Lord Chaitanya came to experience. What does love of God feel like? Right? He's God wanting to experience what it's like to be Radha, who loves Krishna, God. So it's dynamic. There's an emotional component. It's like pretty much all about emotion. It's bhakti bhav. Like what's above, what happens when you've completely cleared your heart from anartha is you get to develop ruchi, which is taste. And then what's above ruchi, what's the next level? There are nine stages, 9 steps to prem, love of God. And after cleansing the heart, which is right in the middle, it's the middle stage, and that's where most practitioners that I know are at. We're dealing with, the lust, the greed, the anger, the pride, all that stuff, right? Once we can clear that out, or Krishna clears it out by our chanting, that's why we chant pretty much to get cleared from that. So then we can start to develop taste. And after taste, what comes next is ashakti, which means attachment. So we are not about detachment from just detachment from the material world. Like we're about attaching ourselves to Krishna. And what comes after that, what's next in our development is bhav. That means emotion. We actually feel the way we feel about our love, our beloveds. We've all got someone that we love in this material world. We get to start feeling that on steroids for Krishna. That times a million for Krishna. Unconditional love. And Lord Chaitanya, we just read the Shikshastakam for those who are, interested in what does this love sound like? What is it? What's different about love of God than love of dog or love of our pets or our family? Just read the Shikshastakam. You can hear Lord Chaitanya says, "My Lord, you can slay me or protect me as you like. You're a devotee. You can do whatever you want. You're independent. But still, I will love you no matter what because you're my Lord unconditionally." That's where we're going. That's what we're up to as Hare Krishnas. Those Hare Krishnas, what are they about? Developing pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted, intoxicating prem, love of God that's unconditional. No matter what Krishna does, whatever life throws at the devotee simply feels gratitude and more ecstatic love. And he dances and he shares that love with others. And that's what Lord Chaitanya and his associates did. And we're about to hear all of the different ways that they did that. Basically, it's a book about chanting and dancing. Seriously. Like you see the Hare Krishnas, right? And you're like, those Hare Krishnas, yeah, they play a tambourine and they wear orange robes and they sing Hare Krishna. Like this book is going to like open up like what's actually going on there on the spiritual platform. Because materially, externally, it just looks funny for people. But it's an unlimitedly deep ocean of transcendental consciousness that propels them to go out. I mean, who can go out unless they're drunk on the street and dance? Who does that unless they're drunk? Turns out Lord Chaitanya did that, and he was drunk, but on prem. So it's awesome. We were just reading about how love in the material world is inebriating. It makes one drunk. Love in the spiritual world does also. Love is always inebriating. But there's a difference between material inebriation of lust, right? Perverted love, and the inebriating or intoxicating prem of loving devotional emotion. The loving devotional emotion of prem. Mahaprabhu's color is like Radha. Yeah, there's a verse. It says that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, non-different from Krishna, except he is in the mood and complexion of Radha. So he's golden, and he also has the emotions
Mm.
of Radha. Well said. 45 minutes. That our time is up. Is there any last words you'd like to say, Devi?
No, I'm just about the hearing. Just about the hearing tonight. Letting it all sink in. My ears hearing.
What are you
Everything
present to? What do
starts
you
with
like? What did you
hearing.
hear tonight out of what we read?
I'm present to that material lust has some kind of effect to make one, intoxicated, but in the perverted sense, because what Chaitanya's mood and bhav is definitely, he was in some kind of intoxication based on pure love.
Mm.
So there's lust and then there's pure love.
Yes.
Both can have this intoxicating effect.
Yeah.
However, one is perverted and not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It lacks continuity too.
Right.
The perverted lust is it's temporary. Yeah. And great point. And I just want to attend to the question here. Are you guys going to do this regularly? Schedule? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. We've started reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita from the beginning, and we stream it live from, what are we? We're in New Zealand, so our 8 p.m.
8 p.m. to 8:45 every night, New Zealand time.
That's New Zealand time.
So we start 45 minutes ago. Your time, 45 minutes ago, every night.
Where are you tuning in from? I'd love to know that.
And we can say other things on our schedule. We have, what do we have again? The Monday nights, we're doing Sanskrit sessions. Whether or not we do that live, we haven't decided, but we'll either post the video from it or do it live. And it's where we're learning a Sanskrit word. Okay, you're in USA. So it's like morning-ish right now. Is that right? What's the time where your mom is?
We will find out, yes. Morning.
Wow. But Ottawa is different from USA.
Yeah, depending on where, just depending even where in the USA she is.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But morning time, yeah. It's the morning.
Early, potentially early morning. Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate your participation. It's weird if there's no participation. So, basically without your participation, we're just reading together, and that's cool too. But it's awesome to have others participate because we like to share. We're out to share. We do this to share. We don't want to hog it all for ourselves. This is, as we keep saying, we call this our golden bricks. How many are there? It's like 14 volumes of this thing. We've got 14 golden bricks. We want to share it. So thanks for accepting our offering. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good night. Good morning, wherever you are. Hare Bol.